The UES cornerstone shuddered as another micrometeorite pinged off the reinforced hull plating. Captain Sarah Chen didn't flinch. After 15 years building orbital habitats in the asteroid belt, she'd learned to distinguish between concerning vibrations and routine noise. This was routine, temperature differential holding steady at Junction 7. Reported Lieutenant Marcus Webb from the engineering station. The thermal expansion compensators are doing their job. Chen nodded, making a note on her tablet. The cornerstone wasn't a warship. It was a mobile construction platform, essentially a flying factory designed to build jump gates, repair stations, and structural frameworks in the deep black. Her crew consisted of welders, structural engineers, and fabrication specialists. The closest thing they had to weapons were plasma cutters rated for slicing through asteroids. She reached into her breast pocket and pulled out her grandfather's old slide rule. The bamboo was worn smooth from decades of use, the numbers faded but still legible. Chen's grandfather had built bridges across Earth's most treacherous valleys. Using nothing but this tool and his understanding of load dynamics. No computers, no fancy simulations, just mathematics, physics, and an unwavering commitment to truth. Captain, we're approaching the coordinates, called out Ensign Julia Ramos from navigation. The distress beacon is coming from the Kepler Station construction site. Chen slipped the slide rule back into her pocket and stood. What's the status of the station? Partial structural failure, Ramos reported, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Looks like a support truss collapsed. They're venting atmosphere from Sector 3. How many personnel on site? 47 workers. 12 are trapped in the damaged section. Chen's jaw tightened. Construction accidents were rare with modern safety protocols, but when they happened, every second mattered. Marcus, prep the emergency response team. Get the structural reinforcement beams ready. Julia, calculate the fastest safe approach vector. Captain, the cornerstone accelerated, its massive frame groaning slightly as the engines pushed them forward. Through the viewport, Chen could see the skeletal framework of Kepler Station hanging against the stars. Even from this distance, she could identify the problem. The station's designers had used a tension-based support system, elegant but fragile. Someone had prioritized aesthetics over redundancy. Incoming transmission, Webb announced. It's not from Kepler Station. Chen frowned. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a vessel unlike anything in Earth's design philosophy. It was all flowing curves and crystalline surfaces that seemed to refract light in impossible ways. The ship looked like a soap bubble sculpted by a master artist, beautiful and utterly impractical. A figure appeared on screen, tall, slender, with skin that shimmered like mother of pearl, and eyes that were too large, too perfect. The alien wore robes that seemed to be woven from liquid light. Human construction vessel. The alien said, its voice melodious and cold. I am Mediator Kirath of the Tessari Harmony Collective. You are operating in disputed territorial space. Power down your engines and prepare for diplomatic processing. Chen kept her expression neutral. The Tessari were known throughout human space as the galaxy's self-appointed peacekeepers. They were obsessed with balance, symmetry, and what they called structural harmony. They'd never been hostile, but they were notoriously inflexible when it came to regulations. Mediator Kirov. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Services. We're responding to an emergency distress call. 12 human workers are trapped and running out of air. We don't have time for processing. Kirov's perfect face showed no emotion. The distress call originates from an unauthorized structure built in violation of harmony accords. The structure must be dismantled. The workers will be relocated after proper diplomatic channels are established. People are dying, Chen said, her voice hardening. We're going in. I cannot permit this. Chen cut the transmission and turned to her crew. Marcus, how long until we reach the station? 4 minutes at current speed. Make it 3. Julia, evasive pattern Delta. Keep us between that Tessari ship and the station. The Cornerstone surged forward. Through the viewport, Chen watched the Tessari vessel adjust its position, moving to intercept. It was faster, more maneuverable, but the Cornerstone was bigger, heavier, and built to withstand the stresses of deep space construction. Captain, the Tessari ship is charging weapons, Webb said. His voice tight. Chen's blood ran cold. Weapons? They're mediators. They don't have weapons. Tell that to the energy spike I'm reading. It's massive, Captain. Concentrated at their bow section, Chen made a split-second decision. All hands, brace for impact. Marcus, activate emergency bulkheads. Ramos, hard to starboard, now. The Cornerstone rolled, its massive frame responding with surprising agility. A beam of coherent light sliced through the space where they'd been seconds before. The energy discharge was so intense that it left after images burned into Chen's vision. They just shot at us, Ramos said, her voice shaking. Mediators don't shoot people. This one does, Chen growled. Webb, damage report, glancing hit on the port fabrication array. We lost some equipment, but the hull is intact. The Tessari vessel was coming around for another pass, moving with predatory grace. Chen's mind raced. The Cornerstone wasn't designed for combat, but it was designed to move massive objects, to cut through asteroids, and to withstand extreme conditions. Marcus, the plasma cutters. Can we repurpose them? Webb caught on immediately. They're designed for precision work, Captain. The range is maybe 200 meters, and they take 30 seconds to recharge between shots. That's 30 seconds more than we have. Slave them to the main targeting computer. Set output to maximum dispersion. That'll burn out the focusing lenses. We'll buy new ones. Do it. The Tessari ship fired again. This time, Chen was ready. She'd been watching its approach vector, calculating the geometry. Hard to port, 10 degrees. Nose down, 5. The beam passed overhead, close enough that Chen could feel the heat through the hull plating. The Cornerstone shuddered but held together. Chen's grandfather had always said that good engineering was about understanding stress and knowing your tolerances. Plasma cutters online, Webb reported. Target lock acquired. Fire. The industrial plasma cutters were never meant to be weapons. They were designed to slice through Nicolaian asteroids with surgical precision. But at maximum dispersion, they became something else entirely. 3 superheated streams of ionized gas erupted from the cornerstone's hull. Spreading out in a wide cone, the Tessari ship tried to evade, but it was too close. Moving too fast, the plasma washed over its crystalline hull. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then cracks appeared, spreading like lightning across the perfect surface. The ship's elegant curves began to buckle, unable to withstand the thermal stress. "Cease fire," Chen ordered. "We're not here to kill anyone." But the damage was done. The Tessari vessel's structural integrity was compromised. It began to tumble, venting atmosphere and coolant. Emergency pods ejected, carrying the crew to safety. Chen let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "Ramos, get us to Kepler Station. We still have people to save." They'd barely begun the rescue operation when space itself seemed to fold. Chen had seen jump drives activate before, but this was different. This was massive. Reality rippled, and suddenly the cornerstone was no longer moving. The engines fired, but the ship remained perfectly stationary, as if locked in invisible concrete. "What the hell?" Webb stared at his console. "Captain, we're in some kind of stasis field. I'm reading massive gravitational distortions all around us." The view outside changed. Enormous geometric structures materialized from nowhere, surrounding them in a perfect dodecahedron formation. They weren't ships. They were monuments, each one the size of a small moon. Covered in glowing symbols that hurt to look at directly, a voice filled the bridge, bypassing the communications system entirely. It resonated in Chen's bones. Ancient and implacable. Violence detected. Harmony violation confirmed. Lockdown protocol initiated. Chen gripped her grandfather's slide rule through the fabric of her pocket. "Identify yourself. I am the architect, guardian of structural integrity, arbiter of foundational law. Human vessel. You have destroyed a Tessari meditation ship. This constitutes a Category 1 harmony violation." "We were defending ourselves," Chen protested. "They fired first. Irrelevant. Tessari mediators are designated non-combatants. Harm to mediators triggers corrective protocols. You will be transferred to tribunal facility for judgment." "What about the people trapped on the station?" "They'll die. Collateral concerns are secondary to structural harmony. Tribunal will commence in 48 standard hours. If you are found culpable, your species will undergo corrective reconstruction." The way the architect said corrective reconstruction made Chen's skin crawl. It sounded like a euphemism for something terrible. "What does that mean? Corrective reconstruction? Your civilization will be dismantled and rebuilt. According to harmony. Specifications. Aggressive tendencies will be removed. Structural flaws will be corrected. You will be made beautiful." Chen felt her crew's eyes on her. They were terrified. The architect wasn't threatening war. It was threatening something worse. Forced transformation. The erasure of humanity's rough edges. Its independence. Everything that made them human. "I'll go to your tribunal," Chen said quietly. "But my crew had nothing to do with this." "Let them go." "Negative. Crew will remain in stasis as evidence." "You are designated primary respondent. Transport will arrive momentarily." A smaller vessel detached from one of the massive structures, gliding toward the cornerstone with eerie silence. It docked with a solid clunk that Chen felt through the deck. Webb stood up. "Captain, you can't go alone." "I can and I will," Chen said. She pulled out her grandfather's slide rule, running her thumb along its edge. "This tribunal wants to judge whether humans deserve to exist as we are. I'm going to show them exactly what we are. What if you can't convince them?" Chen smiled grimly. "Then I guess they'll learn that humans don't accept failure modes. We iterate, we adapt, and we build solutions." She headed toward the airlock. "Marcus, you have the comm. Keep the crew safe, and someone check on those workers at Kepler Station." The architect said it was secondary, but that doesn't mean we ignore it. Captain. The transport's interior was unnervingly perfect. Every surface was smooth, seamless, without visible joints or fasteners. It was the kind of design that looked impressive, but would be a maintenance nightmare. No access panels, no redundancy, no way to repair anything if it broke. Chen sat on the floor, cross-legged, and pulled out her slide rule. She ran calculations, working through stress analysis problems in her head. It was meditative, calming. Numbers didn't lie. Physics didn't care about politics or aesthetics. As the transport carried her toward whatever awaited, Chen thought about her grandfather's bridges. He'd built them to last centuries, to carry loads far beyond their rated capacity, to survive earthquakes and floods. He'd built them honest. The galaxy was about to learn that human engineering wasn't pretty. It was robust, redundant, and absolutely uncompromising when it came to structural truth. The transport docked with another solid clunk. The door opened, revealing a corridor that stretched into impossible distance, all flowing curves and soft light. At the far end, Chen could see figures waiting. She stood, tucked the slide rule back into her pocket, and stepped forward. She was a construction engineer. She understood foundations, load paths, and the difference between what looked good and what actually worked. It was time to teach the galaxy a lesson in structural integrity. The tribunal facility defied every principle of architecture Chen had ever learned. It existed in what her escort called fold space, a dimensional pocket where normal geometry took a vacation. The main chamber was a massive sphere, perhaps a kilometer in diameter, with platforms suspended at various heights and angles that should have been impossible. Without visible support structures, Chen hated it immediately. Gravity manipulation fields. She muttered, studying the floating platforms. Looks impressive until the power fails. Then everyone falls. Her escort, a Tessari official named Velenth, turned his stupefaced head. The architect's constructions never fail. Human. They have maintained perfect operational status for 17,000 years. Everything fails eventually, Chen said. It's called entropy, second law of thermodynamics. Your builders just haven't hit their mean time between failures yet. Velen's luminous skin rippled with what might have been irritation. You will show proper respect in the harmony chamber. High Arbiter Selenith presides over your case. She has judged 10,000 disputes across 400 species. They emerged onto a platform near the chamber's equator. The scale was dizzying. Hundreds of platforms floated throughout the space, each occupied by alien observers. Chen recognized a few species from Earth's limited contact: the crystalline Varrotti, the gas-form Nephians, the mechanical shard collective. Others were completely unknown. At the chamber's zenith, a massive platform gleamed like polished obsidian. 3 figures sat on thrones that seemed grown from the platform itself. The central figure was clearly Tessari, but larger than any Chen had seen, wearing robes that cascaded down like a waterfall of light. High Arbiter Selenith. To her right sat something that looked like a sentient mathematical proof, geometric shapes constantly reconfiguring. To her left, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline matrix. But above them all, filling the space like a storm, was the architect itself. Not a ship or a station, but a presence. Geometric patterns of light and shadow that hurt to perceive directly, constantly shifting, calculating, judging. Chen pulled out her grandfather's slide rule and held it like a talisman. Proceedings commence. The architect's voice resonated through every molecule in Chen's body. Case filing, harmony violation 78452. Human construction vessel. Cornerstone destroyed. Tessari meditation ship Serenity's Grace. Casualty count 0 due to successful evacuation. Structural loss. Total. Verdict parameters. Assess human species compatibility with galactic harmony standards. High Arbiter Selenith rose, and the chamber fell silent. When she spoke, her voice carried perfect crystalline clarity. Captain Sarah Chen of Earth, you stand accused of the gravest violation. The Tessari Harmony Collective has maintained peace for 6 millennia through the sacred institution of meditation ships. These vessels carry no weapons. They exist solely to facilitate understanding. Yet you destroyed Serenity's Grace without provocation. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, easily 100 meters across. It showed the Cornerstone approaching Kepler Station, then the Tessari ship moving to intercept. The footage jumped forward, showing Chen's plasma cutters firing, the Tessari hull buckling, the evacuation pods jettisoning. What it didn't show was the first shot, the beam that had nearly vaporized them. The evidence is clear, Selenith continued. Human aggression threatens the structural harmony of civilized space. Your species builds weapons disguised as tools. You prioritize function over beauty, strength over elegance. You are, by nature, destructive. The chamber murmured agreement. Chen could feel the weight of thousands of eyes, sensors, and consciousness fields focused on her. How do you respond, human? Selenith asked. Chen stepped forward to the edge of her platform. She'd given opening statements before, at construction review boards and safety hearings. This wasn't so different, just higher stakes. I respond by requesting the complete engineering telemetry data from the incident. Chen said clearly. Not edited footage, raw sensor logs, energy signatures, structural stress readings, electromagnetic spectra. Everything your architect recorded. Selenith's expression didn't change, but Chen saw the slight hesitation. The visual record is sufficient. No, it's not, Chen said flatly. Visual data can be edited, cropped, framed to tell a specific story. But energy signatures don't lie. Physics doesn't have an opinion. I want the math. The geometric being to Selenith's right spoke. its voice like wind chimes. An unusual request. Most species focus on intent, on context, on emotional justification. You ask for numbers. I'm an engineer, Chen said. Numbers are how we understand truth. Show me the energy transfer coefficients. Show me the thermal bloom patterns. Show me what actually happened, not what you want people to see. Processing request. The architect intoned. Raw telemetry data available. Transfer initiated. A data stream appeared in front of Chen, scrolling through the air in symbols she didn't recognize. But data was data. She pulled out her tablet and began downloading, her fingers flying across the interface to configure translation protocols. Selenith raised a hand. Wait, this information contains sensitive specifications regarding Tessari vessel construction. It falls under Harmony Preservation Protocol 17. Primitive species cannot access advanced technological data. I'm not asking for your blueprints. Chen said, I'm asking for the energy readings from the incident. That's evidence in my trial. You can't withhold evidence and call it justice. The crystal being pulsed with light. She raises a valid structural point. Withholding evidence creates logical instability in the judgment matrix. The data will be filtered appropriately, Selenith said firmly. Technical specifications removed, general energy profiles retained. She gestured, and the data stream shifted, large sections vanishing. Chen watched carefully. She noted which sections disappeared, which timestamps were affected. Selenith was hiding something specific. The filtered data transferred to Chen's tablet. She sat down cross-legged on the platform, pulled out her grandfather's slide rule, and began working through the numbers. Energy input, thermal dissipation, electromagnetic signatures. She reconstructed the incident moment by moment, building a timeline of cause and effect. The chamber waited. Aliens shifted on their platforms. Some left, bored by the human staring at a primitive calculating device. But others watched with fascination as Chen moved the sliding pieces back and forth, scribbling notes on her tablet. Hours passed. Chen barely noticed. The numbers told a story, but it was incomplete. Gaps appeared in the data at critical moments. Not corrupted data or sensor glitches. To liberate our EDACTIONS. She looked up at Selenith. Your Harmony Preservation Protocol removed information from 3 specific timestamps. 10 seconds before the incident, to seconds before, and the moment of initial contact. Why those moments specifically? Proprietary propulsion data, Selenith said smoothly. Tessari gravity drives operate on principles too advanced for human comprehension. Chen smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Gravity drives don't produce thermal blooms. They manipulate spacetime, which creates gravitational waves, not heat signatures. But something on that ship generated massive thermal output at those exact moments. Something hot enough that even your filters couldn't completely scrub the residual radiation. She stood, holding up her slide rule. This tool is 400 years old. My grandfather used it to calculate load distributions for suspension bridges. No batteries, no computer chips, just bamboo and mathematics. And right now, it's telling me that your meditation ship had an energy profile inconsistent with civilian vessels. The chamber stirred. Selenith's perfect face showed the first crack of emotion. Annoyance. You are speculating based on incomplete data. Then give me the complete data, Chen shot back. Show me those 3 timestamps unfiltered. Prove your ship was what you claim it was. I cannot. The harmony preservation protocols exist for the collective good. Some knowledge is too dangerous for primitives like me. Chen interrupted. How convenient. You get to hide the evidence and call it protection. A new voice echoed through the chamber. Young, uncertain, but determined. I can explain the thermal signatures. Everyone turned. On a lower platform, a smaller Tessari figure stood. Young, judging by the less luminous skin. Wearing the plain robes of a junior engineer, rather than ornate official garments. Mediator Vexel. Selenith's voice was sharp. You are not recognized to speak. I'm an engineering apprentice assigned to the meditation fleet. Vexel said, his voice growing stronger. I helped maintain Serenity's grace, and I know what those thermal signatures represent. Chen felt her pulse quicken. An insider, someone who knew the truth. Vexel, I command you to silence, Selenith said. You violate your oath of service. No, Vexel said. I uphold it. My oath was to structural honesty, to build things that work, not things that look impressive. He looked directly at Chen. The human is correct. Meditation ships aren't armed. But Serenity's grace wasn't a meditation ship. Not really. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens buzzed, clicked, and hummed in their various forms of communication. Selenith stood, her robes flaring with barely contained energy. This apprentice speaks from ignorance and youthful rebellion. His claims have no foundation. They have foundation, Chen said quietly. Let him speak. Unless you're afraid of what he'll say. The architect's presence intensified. The geometric patterns accelerating. Structural truth supersedes political convenience. Witness Vexel may provide testimony. Vexel descended to Chen's platform on a gravity field. Up close, she could see he was nervous, his luminous skin flickering like a faulty light. But his eyes held determination. 3 months ago, Vexel said, I was assigned to perform routine maintenance on Serenity's grace. Standard procedure, check hull integrity, calibrate sensors, inspect propulsion systems. But when I accessed the engineering spaces, I found modifications, unauthorized installations. What kind of modifications? Chen asked. Weapons, Vexel said simply. Coherent energy projectors, military grade. Hidden behind false bulkheads in the forward sensor ray. The ship's beautiful exterior was the same, but inside, someone had converted it into a light attack vessel. The chamber went silent. Chen felt the weight of that revelation settle over everything. I reported it through proper channels. Vexel continued. I filed safety violations. Weapons integration creates structural stress points. It compromises hull integrity. But my reports were redirected, classified under harmony preservation protocols. I was told that some meditation ships require defensive capabilities. For operations in contested regions, defensive, Chen said. So they admitted it. They said defensive. Vexel agreed. But those energy projectors were offensive systems, designed for first strikes. And 3 weeks later, Serenity's Grace was assigned to intercept human construction vessels in the border region. Chen turned to Selenith. The High Arbiter's perfect composure was cracking, her skin flickering with what might have been anger or fear. "You sent an armed ship to confront us," Chen said. "You put weapons on it, called it a mediator, and then used that classification to protect it when it attacked. That's not preserving harmony. That's weaponizing your own laws. You understand nothing of galactic realities," Selenith said coldly. "Humans expand too quickly. You build without permission, without grace, without consideration for aesthetic impact. Your structures are ugly, brutish things that mar the beauty of space. Something had to be done to contain your spread, so you decided to shoot at us. We decided to establish firm boundaries. Your species needed to learn its place." Chen felt something cold settle in her chest. This wasn't about justice. It never had been. This was about control, about maintaining a hierarchy where the Tessari sat at the top, deciding what was beautiful enough to exist. She pulled out her grandfather's slide rule and held it up for everyone to see. "This tool built bridges that are still standing after for centuries," Chen said. "They're not beautiful by your standards. They're steel and concrete and rivets. They collect rust and bird droppings, but they hold. They carry millions of tons of traffic. They survive earthquakes, floods, and storms. They work." She pointed the slide rule at Selenith. "Your meditation ship looked like art. Perfect curves, elegant proportions, harmonious design. But it couldn't withstand thermal stress from a plasma cutter. It failed catastrophically from damage that shouldn't have caused structural collapse. You prioritized beauty over integrity, and people almost died because of it. The ship was sabotaged by your weapons." Selenith protested. "The ship was poorly designed," Chen corrected. "A proper vessel has redundancy, structural reinforcement, damage control systems. Your ship had none of that because they would have ruined the aesthetic. You built a crystal sculpture and sent it to threaten people. When it broke, you blamed us for not being gentle enough." Vexel spoke again, his voice quiet but clear. "The structural analysis is correct. I ran the calculations after the incident. Serenity's Grace should have survived that level of thermal stress. But the weapon installations weakened the primary load-bearing members. The designers never compensated. They assumed the ship would never take damage because meditation ships don't fight. But this one did fight," Chen said. "It shot first, and because your architect's sensors were programmed to believe meditation ships can't carry weapons. It didn't classify the energy beam as an attack. It saw what it expected to see, not what was actually there." She turned to face the architect's swirling presence. "Your honor system is built on a lie. You created classifications meant to preserve peace, but someone found a way to exploit them. They put guns on ships labeled non-combatant, knowing your systems would give them protection. They weaponized your trust." Analysis proceeding, the architect rumbled. The geometric patterns accelerated, calculating at speeds beyond human comprehension. Selenith raised her hands, energy crackling around her fingers. "This is sophistry. The human twists words to confuse the issue. The facts remain. A human vessel destroyed a Tessari ship. That is the violation. The rest is irrelevant technicality. Technicality? Chen laughed, a harsh sound. You mean physics? You mean structural engineering? Those aren't technicalities. They're the foundation everything else rests on. And your foundation is cracked. She walked to the edge of her platform, looking up at the architect. I formally petition for the complete, unfiltered telemetry data from the incident. No harmony preservation protocols. No redactions. If this tribunal is about truth, let's see all of it. Unless the truth is what you're actually afraid of. The architect was silent for a long moment. The chamber held its breath. Then, petition granted. Harmony Preservation Protocol 17 contains Structural Exception Clause 9C. In cases of potential systemic corruption, transparency supersedes security. Exception activated. No. Selenith's composure shattered completely. Asterisk. You cannot. That data is classified for the protection of your deception. The architect's voice boomed. Preliminary analysis indicates probability of systemic harmony violation by Tessari administrative elements, 87.3%. Full disclosure required to assess structural integrity of judgment protocols. The filtered data vanished. New information flooded into the chamber's central display. Raw, unprocessed, complete. Chen's tablet chimed as it received the full dataset. She didn't need to analyze it. The truth was visible to everyone now. The energy spikes at those 3 redacted timestamps. The coherent energy projector charging cycle. The targeting lock acquisition. The first shot, Serenity's Grace, had fired first. The Cornerstone had fired second, in self-defense. And the Tessari ship had collapsed not because of overwhelming force, but because someone had compromised its structural integrity by installing weapons. It was never designed to carry. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Chen looked up at Selenith. The High Arbiter's luminous skin had gone pale, flickering like a dying star. How many? Chen asked quietly. How many meditation ships did you arm? How many times did you send them to intimidate species you considered primitive, knowing your laws would protect them even if they fired first? Selenith said nothing, but her silence was answer enough. The architect's presence intensified until it was almost painful to perceive. Systemic corruption confirmed. Harmony violation by enforcement authority. Correction protocols required. Chen felt a chill. She'd exposed the truth, but truth came with consequences. And she was about to find out what happened when an ancient artificial intelligence discovered that the beings who created it had perverted its purpose. The architect's presence filled the chamber like a storm preparing to break. Chen felt pressure building in her ears, in her chest, as if reality itself was holding its breath. The geometric patterns that comprised the ancient AI's manifestation had stopped their usual fluid motion and locked into rigid, angular configurations. Warning configurations. Analyzing systemic integrity breach, the architect announced. Each word resonated with increased intensity. Tessari administrative corruption detected across multiple hierarchical levels. Foundation protocols compromised. Structural inspection initiated. High Arbiter Selenith's perfect composure had completely shattered. Her luminous skin flickered erratically and her voice lost its crystalline clarity. "You cannot. I am a high arbiter. I have authority granted by the Harmony Collective itself. You have no jurisdiction over." "Incorrect," the architect interrupted. The chamber trembled. "Architect authority supersedes all administrative positions. Foundation Principle 0. Truth is structural integrity. Lies are load-bearing failures. You have introduced structural weakness into the Harmony framework." Chen watched as massive geometric projections materialized around Selenith's platform. They looked like three-dimensional architectural diagrams, except they were mapping social structures instead of buildings. Lines of authority, chains of command. Communication networks all rendered in glowing lines that shifted from green to amber to red. As the architect analyzed them, everywhere Selenith's influence touched turned red. Vexel moved closer to Chen, his young face showing a mixture of fear and vindication. "I've never seen the architect activate full inspection protocols," he whispered. "It hasn't done this in my lifetime. Maybe not in centuries." "What happens during a full inspection?" Chen asked, though part of her already knew. She'd seen structural failure cascades before. When one support failed, stress redistributed to others, and if they couldn't handle the load, they failed too. Catastrophic progressive collapse. "It audits everything," Vexel said. "Every decision, every communication, every resource allocation. It traces corruption back to its source," and he paused, swallowing hard. "And it removes the compromised elements permanently on Selenith's platform." The High Arbiter was backing away from the geometric projections closing in around her. "This is an overreaction, a minor administrative adjustment to handle a growing problem with human expansion. Nothing more. Minor." The architect's voice made the chamber ring like a struck bell. "Analysis reveals 43 meditation ships, illegally modified with offensive weapons systems, 72 incidents of aggressive first contact with developing species, 116 false harmony violation charges filed to justify territorial expansion." The numbers appeared in the air, undeniable, each one linked to documentation, sensor logs, communication records. The architect was pulling apart centuries of careful deception, exposing the rot underneath the Tessari's beautiful facade. Other platforms throughout the chamber began to react. Alien observers who had been complacent or dismissive were now paying full attention. Chen saw representatives pulling up their own records, checking incidents involving their species, their territories. The murmur grew into a roar. "The Tessari offered to mediate our border dispute with the Krell Syndicate." A Verati delegate called out, its crystalline voice sharp. "But according to these records, they armed both sides and prolonged the conflict for 8 years. They blocked our petition for advanced manufacturing rights," added a Nephian, its gaseous form pulsing with anger. "Claimed we didn't meet Harmony's standards. But the real reason was to maintain Tessari monopoly on construction contracts." More voices joined. Decades, sometimes centuries, of carefully hidden manipulation were being dragged into the light. The Tessari Harmony Collective hadn't been maintaining peace. They'd been maintaining control, ensuring that no other species could challenge their economic and cultural dominance. And they'd done it all under the architects' Watch by exploiting the very classification. Systems designed to prevent war. Chen found herself feeling an odd sympathy for the ancient AI. It had been built with noble purpose: maintain structural harmony, prevent galactic conflict, ensure fair arbitration. But its creators had found its blind spots and exploited them. They turned their guardian into an unwitting accomplice. Captain Chen, Vexel said urgently, "You need to understand something. The architect doesn't just punish individuals. When it finds systemic corruption, it performs what's called foundation replacement. It removes the compromised administrative structure entirely and rebuilds from the ground up." That sounds like regime change. It's more than that. It's complete societal restructuring. The last time it happened was to the Celta hegemony, 4,000 years ago. They tried to use architect-enforced trade regulations to create artificial scarcity. The architect discovered the manipulation, and Vexel's skin flickered. The Celta went from a multi-system empire to isolated colonies in a single generation. They never recovered. Chen looked up at the swirling mass of the architect. "It's going to do that to the Tessari." "I don't know. Maybe. The scale of corruption is unprecedented. My people have been doing this for centuries, using the architect's own systems against it." Vexel's voice dropped to a whisper. "We deserve it. But millions of innocent Tessari will suffer alongside the guilty." Before Chen could respond, Selenith's voice cut through the chaos. She'd regained some composure, standing straight on her platform despite the geometric projections closing in around her. "You speak of structural integrity, architect," Selenith said, her voice carrying artificial calm. "But consider the structural impact of your proposed actions. The Tessari maintain 17,000 peace stations across 300 sectors. We provide arbitration for 6,000 active disputes. We operate the primary communication networks linking 60 civilizations. If you dismantle our administrative structure, you create a vacuum, chaos, violence, the very things you were built to prevent." The architect's pattern slowed, considering. Analysis acknowledged Tessari removal would create systemic instability. Probability of cascade failures, 73.2%. Selenith's skin brightened with triumph. "Exactly. You cannot remove us without violating your core function. We are, despite our imperfections, structurally necessary. The galaxy needs us." Chen felt her stomach drop. Selenith was right. The Tessari had made themselves indispensable. They'd woven themselves so deeply into galactic infrastructure that removing them would cause the very chaos the architect was designed to prevent. It was brilliant, in a horrifying way. They'd made themselves too big to fail. "So what?" Chen called out. "You get away with it because you've made yourselves load-bearing? That's not justice. That's hostage-taking. That is reality," Selenith replied. "The human concept of simple right and wrong is charmingly naive. But structure requires compromise. The architect understands this. It will sanction our administrative practices, perhaps implement oversight. But it cannot afford to remove us.